protect the settlers against the Indians. Well, 100 years later were the 1960s and 1970s, and the war in Vietnam was taking place. And I thought about the similarities. Vietnam in 1960s and 70s, 1860s, 70s, 80s, wars against the indigenous peoples, Indian peoples, in the Great Plains and in Arizona, the Apaches. And of course, in Arizona, since it was war against the Indians, almost all Indians were Apaches. So I wrote this book not right away, but over a period of time, although I began note-taking. In the second time, I went back to Fort Lyons. And I will read a few sections or a few from there. It's prefaced with November 29, 1864. On that cold dawn, about 600 Southern Cheyenne and Arapaho people, 2/3 of them women and children, were camped on a bend of Sand Creek in southeastern Colorado. The people were at peace. This was expressed 2 months before by Black Kettle, one of the principal elders of the Cheyennes, in Denver, to Governor John Evans and Colonel John W. Chivington, head of the Colorado Volunteers. I want you to give all these chiefs of the soldiers here to understand that we are for peace and that we have made peace, that we may not be mistaken for enemies. The Reverend Colonel Chivington and his volunteers and Fort Lyon troops, numbering more than 700 heavily armed men, slaughtered 105 women and children and 28 men. A U.S. flag presented by President Lincoln in 1863 to Black Kettle in Washington, D.C., flew from a pole above the elders' lodge on that gray dawn. The people had been assured they would be protected by the flag. By mid-1865, the Cheyenne and Arapaho people had been driven out of Colorado territory.